Greetings YouTube, I'm Evening, and I'm here to tell you about games you probably never heard about. Today, I want to ask and answer a simple question. Should you play Syndicate? Let's begin with what even is Syndicate? Well, Syndicate is a 1993 tactical shooter by Bullfrog Productions and produced by Peter Molyneux of all people. In 2012 though, Starbreeze Studios, who you might know as the studio behind The Darkness, Brothers, and the Riddick games, released a reboot which, rather than sticking with its tactical roots, became an FPS. The development of Syndicate itself was quite troubling, mainly as it, in a way, could have been the end for Starbreeze Studios itself. In 2009, while making Syndicate, quite a few big talented names left the studio, including its founder, and they all went on to establish Machine Games, who then created the amazing new Wolfenstein games. Luckily, Starbreeze persevered and lives on even to this day. The first and main issue is, of course, that Syndicate is delisted from all digital storefronts. Now you can, of course, use good old abandonware, or, once again, use the services of my favorite abandonware monger, Rohan Kha, and his repacks. Once again, all you need to do is unzip and play. Zero performance problems, at least for me. While there are zero technical problems, the game does have a couple other hiccups. I had a couple levels where a button needed to progress just couldn't be pressed. There was no interaction prompt, which resulted in me having to restart from the last checkpoint, which isn't that big of a problem. Another bug I experienced, at least I assume it's a bug, because no way it's a feature. This boss here, the enemy just stood there, in place, doing nothing, tanking my revolver shots like it was nothing. Lastly, whenever you are stuck in an animation that requires button spamming, the game locks itself to 30 FPS, and then, afterwards, once again, comes back to smooth gameplay. It feels very weird and very jarring every single time it happens. So, what is Syndicate even about? You play as Kilo, an agent for the Eurocorp organization in the distant cyberpunk future of 2069. Nice. Kilo possesses the newest chip in his brain, making him the best agent Eurocorp has. You are sent out on a mission to eliminate Eurocorp's competition, when of course, betrayals, corporate drama, and weird science fiction ensues. We must talk about the elephant in the room, the bloom. It's so bad, to a level where at times it makes the game unplayable. There is a mod that removes the bloom effect, which is something I think is a requirement, not even a recommendation. The amount of bloom present is comical. It sometimes just fully covers your screen with a flashbang of light. But that's not the only ugly thing about the game. Honestly, a lot of times the game itself is just kinda ugly. Mainly, the reason why is the UI. 90% of it is good, great even. I especially love the ammo counter being tied to the gun itself. What I don't like is your giant blue ball in the bottom middle of the screen. It adds absolutely nothing of value. Just a giant ball that shows you getting worthless points for kills. The other part of the UI that I actually despise is this whole information overload part, where as you move through an area, every object around you gets scanned and identified. So now, a little white box floats over it letting you know that this plant is indeed a plant. It's just useless clutter that sure is understandable from the perspective of establishing the chip and the world, showing how much information is being bombarded to a person's head, to a level where it seems pointless and dystopian, where one must know everything. That's cool, but it could have been contained in one scene. I don't need this all the time. There's a level in the middle of the game where you get EMP'd up the wazoo, which is expected. There's always a level like that. And when it happens, you lose your whole UI. And let me tell you, that was my favorite part of the game. I loved actually being able to see the world, and not the UI. While we are on the subject of the EMP level, I want to praise the game's visuals on perfectly portraying the divide between people. Many levels take turns being set in either the billion-dollar corporation buildings, where everything is sterile, white, made of glass and tech, or in places where regular people live. The world of the everyday man is gritty, grey, dirty, made of cement, but at the same time, it feels lived in. Sure, it may be very cliché, but the contrast between the two worlds feels very well done, even if not the most original thing ever. This, again, can come back to the previous level I just talked about. For a lack of a better word, the poor place is something we can experience without our UI, without the technology. It all can be viewed as a way of seeing the real lives of these people who live in the world of Syndicate. We can see it with our eyes, that are not clouded with technology and glamour. Or I may be looking too deep into it, as the lack of UI lasts for only 2 minutes or so. I really love the gun design. They feel futuristic, while not being overly sci-fi. They feel like a realistic evolution of weapons. rather than some alien technology. The guns also differ depending on who you are fighting. While battling the chipless rebels, they use simple revolvers and SMGs. While going against the big corpo, you get to use laser rifles and auto-targeting assault rifles. They could, though, take a little bit less screen space. That would be quite nice. It gets a bit too much when a whole quarter of the screen is just big gun. The environment itself is quite static and not very interactable, which is a problem, mostly considering the main mechanic of the game, slowing down time. For comparison, let's look at F.E.A.R. Because of all the flying papers, debris from walls, and blood, slowing down time felt a lot more powerful and fun to do, just from visual standpoint alone. In Syndicate, slowing down time just turns on an Assassin's Creed Eagle Vision, which really visually makes the slow-mo not as interesting. Audio is a very mixed bag, at least whenever the game doesn't throw dubstep at you.
The West Coast is ours!
The music is stellar. It fits both the world and the energy of the game pretty well. The sounds of the guns, though, feel quite subdued and muffled. Like, I'd expect a shotgun or a minigun to pack more of a punch. But for the most part, they just sound like wet farts. Syndicate is an interesting game. On the one hand, it features the core of the fun, slow-mo gameplay that made F.E.A.R. so good. On the other hand, enemies can be such bullet sponges that you spend your whole slow-mo time just spraying a single dude. Another part that's missing from the F.E.A.R. satchel of goodness is the fun mobility. Kilo feels slow and heavy. His slide feels pathetic. His jumps are little. You don't have the fun flying kicks of Point Man, sadly. This is where it almost feels like the gameplay clashes. You have the fun, more damage, more armor, slow motion mode that just begs you to be mobile and an action man, while also featuring environments that are more suited for cover-to-cover gameplay. Speaking of cover, Syndicate has a very nice cover mechanic, where you automatically hide behind chest-high walls, and with a single right click, you can pop out, take a shot or two at an enemy, and go back down. Because of his amazing and powerful chip, Kilo can also, in addition to slow-mo mode, activate 3 powers. In my opinion, the best of these is Backfire, a very simple power that disarms an enemy, gives a little kick of damage, and makes them more vulnerable to other damage. It also does this to 2 other people around the target, a great power that encourages you to be active in the battlefield. It's an opportunity maker. The other 2 powers are, at the same time, better and worse. Let me explain. Your other 2 powers are just an automatic win button. The first one is a suicide that just makes an enemy explode, hopefully taking his pals with him. The other one is Persuade. You turn an enemy friendly until he wipes every enemy around, and then he offs himself. They really lessen the game experience as now, rather than trying to figure out how to solve a combat encounter, who to shoot first, when to use slow-mo. It just becomes a, let me just make these enemies die with 1 click. It's too overpowered. To come back to the EMP level, since the enemies you fight in this level are chipless, you also lose your ability to use the 2 OP powers. You only have Backfire, and this truly makes those levels the highlight of the whole game. Even though there aren't that many weapons in the game, most of the weapons boast an alt fire that changes the weapon, making an assault rifle into a DRM or giving the shotgun explosive rounds. This little aspect adds a lot to the game, as for the most part you can only carry 2 weapons, so having a little alt fire is almost like giving you a whole other weapon, which is just fantastic for a 2-weapon system. Another aspect that makes the game have some versatility are the skill points. The upgrades feel quite substantial, like gaining an overshield or becoming immune to your own explosives. There's also another system where whenever your upgrade nodes touch, you gain 2.5% extra health, so there's a strategy to your leveling up. Do you take a skill you might not want that much to set up getting a skill that might give you 5% extra health? The devs also put all the health-related skills in the corners, just so you don't get the extra health, cheeky bastards. The boss fights tend to try and have a gimmick each time, which is nice, but other than 1 fight, the rest don't feel that consequential or impactful. Just, hey, fight this stronger enemy. That's kinda it. Speaking of enemies, they are surprisingly competent. They try to rush you, pincer you, flank you, they change cover if you shoot them, they even throw grenades that, in any other game, would be very effective. But in Syndicate, you have the ability to just hack away a grenade and take it for yourself, which makes the grenade less than useless, as in the end, they just throw you ammo. I don't think I had a single grenade explode on me the whole game. At the end of the day, the combat feels heavy, and we saw it work wonders in the new Wolfenstein games. Sadly, it feels out of place when paired with a system that shines in high mobility situations. Rather than an opportunity to do something cool, slow motion here feels just like a momentary power boost, nothing more. There are moments when you can use your superior powers to rush into battle and mow down your enemies, but compared to how most fights go, these moments of fun are rare. This story, for the most part, is exactly what you'd expect from a dystopian cyberpunk world where mega corporations rule. A lot of inequality and capitalism. There are some very interesting aspects of the game that I'd rather not spoil that have to do with Kilo and other agents, but other than that one part, story felt quite generic. The game really only has 4 characters, and none of them are that interesting. Very cookie-cutter examples of good science person and bad corporate person. It might have one of the least threatening villains ever. It felt like the game flipped a switch and he's the villain now. Other than the stellar performance from everyone, specifically Brian Cox, I love that man. The story is very forgettable. It itself is overshadowed by the visual storytelling of the game, which is more powerful than the actual plot. So, to answer the question, should you play Syndicate? It's a hard question to answer. On the one hand, it's very short, only around 4 hours. It does feature some fantastic visual storytelling and nice music. It is a must to install the Blue mod in order to play the game without sunglasses. But other than that, there are no big problems. It all comes down to this. Does the gameplay seem fun? As really, that's the only reason you would play, as the story itself is really nothing special. If you want to play an inferior F.E.A.R. and the sequels don't do it for you, go ahead, have fun with Syndicate. See you next time. I've been Evening, and this has been Syndicate.